-25, request by Shane Roosh to approve the specific implementation plan for the plan unit development of the Veterans Parkway subdivision, presented by Josh Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was originally brought to council last year when it was a general development plan. A plan unit development takes it's a complex process that involves a couple of steps. The first step is having a public hearing with the Plan Commission and talking about the general development plan, which kind of lays out the overall the layout of the development, the streets, where the houses may be. And then the next step is to do the specific implementation plan, and that really defines more detail the setback exceptions, landscaping, any architectural features, things like that. In this case, we had a lot of those things as part of the general development plan, so really there's not a whole lot new to present tonight. Basically, in summary, this is the old shortest development. It was a condo plat at one point, where there was a private drive coming off of the Veterans Parkway frontage road, and then it didn't quite complete up to Lincoln Avenue yet. There's a dirt road that goes to there now, but it was one side of the cul-de-sac was finished with, I think, the first lift of asphalt. But it was a private drive. It technically didn't have city frontage, and so back in 2005 this was started, and it had been amended, I think, in 2006 and 2008. And just with the market wasn't there for those types of units, and so they needed to find basically a different way to develop this site. And what they came up with was to ask the city to take over the infrastructure, so the streets, the sanitary, sewer, water, things like that, and in order for them to be able to split up the lots and develop it. They couldn't do that unless we were to take over the infrastructure. So late last year, they had dissolved the condo plat, leaving them basically not really a conforming situation, but we knew this was forthcoming. And we did sign a development agreement with the developer to ensure that the utilities are at least inspected, and if there are some issues, we'd be able to identify them and bring those up to some kind of standard before taking them over. Some of those inspections have not taken place yet just due to the weather, and we had anticipated doing that prior to this meeting, but of course with the weather it just wasn't going to work out. So we do hope to address that in the near future. Before the plat itself can be recorded, and this resolution can be recorded, those inspections will need to take place. The provisions of the development agreement will have to be completed. So that's still forthcoming. So it's not. We still have a couple steps after the final approval before it's completed. But just in summary, as far as what the development will look like, the current structures that are there include two-unit condo buildings. So they're basically twin homes, and then 3 single-unit condo buildings. Those will all become single-family homes on their own separate lots. What's remaining is an additional 13 duplex lots, so additional 26 development units that would be constructed over the next 3 years. Ideally, the first 2 would be done this year. Then the next, I think, 3 or 4 would be done the following year, and then the remainder would be done in the 3rd year once the infrastructure, the additional street and infrastructure is extended. So the total acreage is about 13 acres on this site. So we're going to be able to have tax base and new residential development. The proposal is for three bedroom, I think 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. So those are identified in the housing study as a need for this area, 3-bedroom rentals. So that's exciting to have those come online. This first item is the specific implementation plan that staff is asking you to approve. The second one will be the plat. It's essentially this 2-step process for this entire thing. But overall, the average lot size is about just over 16,000 square feet, which is a pretty decent size for a duplex lot. Trying to think, there are a few exceptions requested as part of the plan unit development. That's one thing that's allowed, is it's essentially granting a variance for an area without having to go through the variance criteria or the variance process. And in turn, we get a little bit higher scrutiny and a little bit more review of the development than you normally would. So it's kind of a give and take. And we felt in order to address the issue with the existing development, this was the best route to go rather than trying to grant variances for some of the existing properties because they weren't going to meet setbacks from the road, as well as variances for some of the proposed lots just because of the configuration. They didn't want to have to change it too much, so that's why we including some of those exceptions. Additionally, there will be some landscaping, of course, with the development. It'll have there's a landscape plan submitted that's shown in your packet. Another part of this is the parkland dedication fee. Because it is 26 new dwelling units, they will be submitting a parkland or a fee for parkland dedication, and that'll total $5,200. And so that's exciting. That'll be our first, I think, contribution to that fund. We've had that in place, I think, 7 years now or something. This is when we came up with that, and we have not had one development that has had to pay into it. So we'll have a number more coming with the multifamily that has been approved this past year, but eventually we'll be able to build up that fund and utilize those for maintenance and new park amenities. So with that, staff is recommending approval based on the plan development criteria being met with the following condition: that minor changes to the location of each new duplex as well as accessory uses may be administratively approved, provided the buildings in use meet the setbacks, lot coverage, and other code requirements of this particular use and the TR6 single and two-family residential zoning district. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Josh? So they can't do anything until we vote for this as far as changing the development?
Yeah, they can't do anything until this is approved by council and then the development agreement provisions are met. So that'll be the next step. We have to make sure that those inspections are done. Once those are met, then we can record the plat and record the resolution for this SIP, and then they can start taking out building permits.
So it'd be like for the development, it'd be basically like a person building their house, getting it inspected and getting it approved before they can move on to the next step, is it?
Well, it's like the infrastructure is what we'd have to inspect first.
All right, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2018-25? Mr. Jokic, second by Peschel. Discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
We should use the board on that one.
Should we use the
Yeah,
board?
use the board.
Yeah, it's an ordinance.
It's got a resolution.
Resolution. Yeah, you don't have to use a
Oh, no.
resolution.
Oh, okay.
It's ordinances.
All right, motion carries. Item P, request to approve resolution number 2018-26, final plat Veterans Parkway subdivision, to review the map and other materials for conformity with all ordinances, administrative rules and regulations located northeast of the Veterans Parkway, frontage road, and shortest drive intersection. Presented by Josh Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to keep this brief, basically there was one small change from the original preliminary plat to what this is, and that was about 50 some odd feet for one lot size had changed for lot 8. It was 50 square feet smaller before. So based on that, essentially staff, the city engineer reviews that and states that the final plat is substantially consistent with the preliminary plat, and that is basically read into the record per this presentation. And so I think that's about it. Staff is recommending approval and did include two conditions with this because of the development agreement in place and the parkland dedication fee. So staff would recommend approval with the following conditions: that the parkland dedication fee may be paid in 2 installments of $2,600. The first payment due when the first building permit is taken out in 2018, and the second payment is due when the first building permit is taken out in 2019. In the second condition, the final plat shall not be recorded until all the conditions that are required to be met prior to recording the final plat as listed in the development agreement made between the developer and the city signed November 2nd, 2017 are met. The reason for the split of the parkland dedication fee is they are doing it in 2 phases. The first year they're only going to be doing 2 duplexes, and so $2,600 for 2 duplexes we thought was enough, and then we can space it out and still track it reasonably. So that's the reason for the conditions.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion. Motion to approve resolution number 2018-26, Butke, second by Witzel. Discussion? No discussion, no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.